Welcome to the project
Добро пожаловать в проект.
on YouTube.
Hey yo, what's cracking with it? Welcome to the first episode of the project. This is my very first time trying to podcast. Very, very amateur going on here. I'm using a freaking cab for a guitar microphone into just a regular computer interface. But shortly we'll be, upgrading here and there, getting better microphones, getting better software to record, and just getting with it, joining that podcast gang, yeet, this is my introduction. My name's Evan. The project has been basically a name for me to start doing things that I want to. My mixer name is Project_IX or Project 9. My YouTube's the same thing, and as is my PlayStation and all this stuff where I make videos and stuff like that. But I figured we'd start out episode 1 with just background on me, what the podcast is going to be about, what kind of things we're going to talk about, what I like personally, and, just everything. I'm from a little old state called Massachusetts in New England. You might have heard of it, possibly. You never know. I grew up in Swansea. I was from when I was born till I was about 12 years old, Swansea, Massachusetts. And then after that, my dad got a job down in Wilmington, Delaware, which is like a wicked small state between Pennsylvania and Maryland. Very, very, very tiny. If you don't know geography, you probably wouldn't even know what to look for it. But I lived there from probably the end of 5th grade to probably March of 8th grade, where I moved back up into Somerset, Massachusetts, which is the town over from where I grew up. It's where my cousin grew up, and I had some friends that I knew there from just the past. And Somerset's where I spent most of my growing up. I met a lot of good friends who might be appearing on this podcast in the future. Some good friends of mine that we all share very similar interests. During high school, I got into music big time, like really big time. I started teaching myself the guitar. I fell in love with music. Both of my uncle Steve and my uncle Paul were both big into playing in bands. Both of them, I should say, were big into drums. I always wanted to get a drum set as a kid, but Mom didn't like that idea. So it started out with keyboard, surprisingly. I started learning on the keyboard in middle school. I probably did it for about 3 years, I believe. And after that, I moved on to Guitar Hero. I fell in love with Guitar Hero probably before I left for Delaware, so probably about, I don't even know, fucking 10 to 12 years old, somewhere in there, I started playing that. And that just made me fall in love with guitar. I played that stuff religiously, and especially when Rock Band came out, I played those games religiously. And that's how I got into guitar, as most of the people that are probably listening to this first episode already know me by now. This podcast is going to be probably the weirdest mixture of random shit you are ever going to hear in your life. I'm a big wrestling fan, professional wrestling, whether it be WWE or, ECW or WCW or, like, even now AEW, which is just this fucking glorious change in wrestling for me. I'm in love with that right now. Anything wrestling, whether it be now, past, future, I'm into it. So we'll probably be talking a lot about wrestling shit. I've started collecting wrestling figures. I was into wrestling when I was a kid during the Attitude Era. It was hard to be a kid and not like the Attitude Era. I think when I was a kid, growing up in elementary school, it was hard not to fall in love with people like The Undertaker or The Rock or, fucking Randy Orton even though I grew up hating him, but he did his job that way, right? I really got into Randy. Fucking Rey Mysterio was another big one as a kid. I love that. But I didn't even start off by being a WWF at the time fan. I was a Monday Nitro kid. So, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. We're talking before Vince Russo. When Eric Bischoff was running around and the NWO was becoming a thing. I grew up with all that, man, and that was just great wrestling. Fucking Hollywood, Hulk Hogan, the Big Show at the Paul White. It blew my fucking mind. Is growing up with all that, and I think right before I moved to Delaware, so like 2004-ish, I stopped watching. And I didn't start watching again until 2014, so probably a good 10 years I didn't watch all like the Nexus shit, all the stuff that happened between then. I've watched it now, going back and checking out all the old Monday Night Raws and all the SmackDowns, and especially all the pay-per-views. I've probably been on the WWE Network late at night watching the most random pay-per-views like ever. Yeah, so I've been huge into wrestling. I was almost training with wrestling. I was getting fit and getting ready to train. My buddy Wes got me into local wrestling. He brought me to a few Mass Anarchy wrestling shows, MAW shows. My buddy Wes wrestles as Hunter Kane. He really got me loving the indie scene and really making me fall in love with other shit, like going home and looking up under indie and local wrestling from anywhere from the small town fucking promotions up till like Ring of Honor and all the Japanese wrestling and everything in between. At that point, fucking hardcore wrestling is a big thing for me. ECW was another thing I was watching as a kid. I wasn't supposed to, but my cousins were big into wrestling, and I saw stuff like that on the television. I thought it was like the coolest thing, seeing guys take chair shots and fucking barbed wire and falling like 3 stories into a bunch of fucking tables. I thought it was the coolest fucking thing ever. But yeah, besides wrestling and music, I'm big into video games. I'm a big gamer. These 15-minute teasers, if I decide to do longer than 15-minute podcasts for now, I'm going to have to figure it out because YouTube only lets me do 15 minutes, I believe. I'd have to check up on that, but for now I'm going to start off at 15 minutes. Yeah, I got a lot of YouTube videos of me and the boys just doing random shit in games. It started out with me just doing it from memory, just having these memories and all these laughs and being able to look back at the stuff we did. I thought was a really cool thing and an opportunity that was cool to be able to catalog the adventures that me and my friends would have went on that, working a full-time job doesn't allow you to have, So yeah, video games, wrestling, music. I'm a sports kid too. I am a huge hockey, baseball, and football fan. I'm not a basketball fan. Never really have been. Not my thing. If it is your thing, go for it. I follow golf too. I follow UFC, MMA, you name it, I follow it. Another thing, so we got what? Sports, we got wrestling, music, video games. Yeah, and basically stuff like that. Most of the stuff, the first few, I think, episodes of this podcast are mainly just going to be, talking about things that I like or things that are coming up as news, favorite games I'm playing, what my teams are doing, what I'm seeing around leagues, what I'm D&D stories, for Christ's sake, because that's another thing that me and the guys are into. I want to get some of my friends up here on this podcast too in the near future. I've had a group of friends for a long time now. We have plenty of fucking really ridiculous stories we could all tell, whether it be under the influence, whether we get together and get a table full of guys and microphones or just reminisce about shit, or whether we do that or, just roll with the flow, I guess. This is going to be a really relaxed stream. I'm really just going to be, not even a stream. As you can tell, this is going well. But it's going to be a really relaxed podcast series, I think. I'm going off the cuff, nothing writing down beforehand, just hanging out and just talking, I know there's podcasts out there that I like to listen to that just do that. They hang out, tell stories, either watch videos, react, talk about memories. Those are my favorite things to do. This is really my first go at doing something like this. I've been thinking about it for a while. I've already got a list of new equipment I want to get. I want to get new microphones. I need new stands. Maybe better recording software. What I have now works fine, does everything I need it to do, but, the more the merrier, because I also record music, so, so the project is literally just a project. Whatever myself or my friends like, whatever I feel like I want to talk about, I'm just going to get it out on here. That's basically going to be it. So, here's something to talk about. I am a massive hockey fan, as I previously mentioned. And I was born up here in Massachusetts, so my hometown heroes are the Boston fucking Bruins. I love the Boston Bruins. But when I moved down to Delaware, they didn't show a lot of Boston Bruins games. It was either Flyers or the Capitals. And being a Bruins fan, there was no way in fuck I was going to be a Flyers fan. So I really got into the whole Washington Capitals scene down there. Falling in love with Alex Ovechkin and just really finding a love for the sport. When I lived down there, I was into it as a kid when I was a Bruins fan up here in Massachusetts, but I didn't really get into it like I am now. When I started falling in love with it was when I was down there living in Delaware, and there was Washington Capitals, like I said, the Flyers, and I picked one, and I've fallen in love with him since. I got to see him win a Stanley Cup last year. Got to see Alex Ovechkin hold the cup over his hand. Holtby being a goddamn beast the entire playoffs. It was I loved every minute of it. I never thought I'd see it happen. I'm sitting there at work at the time at my part-time job with the fucking Washington Capitals radio on my phone, just listening, making sure I don't miss a fucking second. And then we come to the Boston Bruins 2019 season. Coming hard and as fast as we've come in years, with some of the best shooters, some of the best veterans, some of the best young talent. One of the best fucking clutch goalies I could ever think of. Tuukka Rask is probably one of my favorite goalies that I've ever watched in the goddamn net, to be honest with you. Now, people may agree or disagree with that, but that's my favorite preference. But I have never seen a fucking team go from being the most clutch, one of the most offensively terrifying teams get completely stomped on for the Stanley Cup. They fucking decimated the Hurricanes, who took out my Washington Capitals like it was fucking, like, not even, nobody thought that would happen. I don't even know what this playoff was. Everybody's bracket after week 1 was fucking decimated. Fucking decimated. Nobody in their right goddamn mind would have thought that out of the entire playoff team bracket, that it would have been St. Louis Blues versus the Bruins again, 49 or 50, how many fucking years later. And, I gotta give the Blues props. Fuck Maroon, though. I hate that guy, Perrin, too. He's a fucking asshole. That team played fucking 10 times better than the Bruins. They wanted it. It was obvious. They fought for it like they had something to fight for. And my anger is nowhere towards the St. Louis Blues. It is 110% me being mad at the Bruins' fucking defense and the skaters. Half of the motherfuckers couldn't even stand on their skates. You've done this your whole life. You can't keep the puck anywhere near your stick, and you can't even stand up for more than 3 seconds without somebody breathing on you and you falling over. It was a mess, but congrats to St. Louis Blues. That's a little taste of what the kind of things we're going to be talking about today. Not even today, in the future, on any other future podcast. Just whatever we want to go on and rant about, basically. All right, but so I want to thank everyone for listening for my first little short teaser of a podcast for episode 1. I'm going to put all the socials down in the description box. Leave me comments into the things you want to hear. If you like my topics, any sort of podcast suggestions, stuff like that. I'd love to hear them as an amateur. And thank you for joining the project, and I hope to see you soon.